All praises. All right, shalom, shalom, y'all.
Shalom.
All right, so yeah, uh, just doing another part of the series that we've been doing. Am I too opinionated? Already on the fourth part. So yeah, we're just gonna pick up where we left off. Just keep looking at this topic.
All praises.
All right, all praises. So there you go. Try to catch up. Here we go. All right, that's the right slide. All right, so as usual, we got our disclaimer. The scriptures expressed in this study are those of the author and not my own. Viewer discretion is advised. In this study, we will look at opinions, how they are formed, and how they can affect our ability to serve Elohim. So, uh, Hebrews 4:11, kind of our preface for this. Let us therefore do our utmost to enter into that rest, lest anyone fall after the same example of disobedience. For the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. And there is no creature hidden from his sight, but all are naked and laid bare before the eyes of him with whom is our account. So again, like we say every week, yeah, our little guy up there, anybody can get cut up.
He be getting it in too. You can tell he ain't to be played with.
That part.
You don't even get tired.
So yeah, it goes, not just out to everybody else, but first it come to me. Yeah, it's definitely, this has been one of those series, one of those lessons that's definitely yeah, Father having his way.
All praises.
All praises. So our introduction. So be a little bit of recap as we get into it. But it's worthwhile for our meditations, right? So Matthew 12:33. Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or else make the tree rotten and its fruit rotten. For a tree is known by its fruit. Brood of adders, how are you able to speak what is what is good, being wicked? For the mouth speaks from the overflow of the heart. The good man brings forth what is good from the good treasures of his heart, and the wicked man brings forth what is wicked from the wicked treasure. And I say to you that for every idle word men speak, they shall give an account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you shall be declared righteous, and by your words you shall be declared unrighteous. Now, keep that in mind with that Hebrews 4, right? Like, he's able to discern the deepest of thoughts and intentions, right? So, just something to keep in mind. So, as we discuss opinions and how they are formed, it would be beneficial for us to take the time to look at how an opinion can affect others. So, we will see just how important this is in the eyes of the Father, right? So, we kind of touched on it a little bit last week, but we'll look at it a little bit more this week. And then towards the middle point of the lesson, we'll start getting into not just how our opinions can affect others, but how we can be affected by other people's opinions.
All praises.
All praises. So this lesson will be more of a meditation about taming the tongue in general. We often have so many opinions, but we don't take into account how the things we say can affect others. It is for this reason that we have to be very mindful of the things we say and the reasons that we say them, right? Um, so James chapter 3 again, not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, knowing that we shall receive greater judgment. For we all stumble in many matters. If any does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle the entire body. Look, we put bits in the mouths of horses for them to obey us, and we turn their body. Look at the ships too. Although they are so big and are driven by strong winds, they are turned by a very small rudder wherever the pilot intends. So too the tongue is a little member, yet boasts greatly. See how a little fire kindles a great forest. And the tongue is a fire, the world of unrighteousness. Among our members, the tongue is set, the one defiling the entire body and setting on fire the wheel of life, and it is set on fire by Gehenna. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea is tamed and has been tamed by mankind. But no man is able to tame the tongue. It is unruly, evil, filled with deadly poison. With it we bless our Elohim and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the likeness of Elohim. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brothers, this should not be so. Does the fountain send forth the sweet and the bitter from the same opening? My brothers, is a fig tree able to bear olives, or a grapevine figs? So neither is a fountain able to make salt and sweet water. All right, so be mindful of your words, right? A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. So we went over this last week, but again, it's worthwhile to look at it again for the to really drive it home in this lesson. So this is something for us to really consider. Um, why are we sharing our opinions with others, and what effect does it have on the hearer? Sometimes we voice opinions about things not taking into account the state of the person we are sharing it with. So our words can go deep into the hearts of others. With this being said, we must be very mindful of what we say, knowing knowing they can influence others, right? So the things that we say, they can influence others. So Proverbs 18, a fool's lips walk into a fight, and his mouth invites a beating. A fool's mouth is his ruin, and his lips are a snare to his soul. The words of a whisperer are like delicious morsels. They go down into the inner parts of the body, right? So you don't have to say everything you think, right? It's easy to. It's easy to. But again, just remembering every other word, we are going to be held accountable, right? So it would make sense for us to be as mindful as we can be. We're not going to catch it all, but as best as we can definitely apply some diligence to our own actions and our own words and the effect that they have on others, right?
Sure.
So your effect on others, right? Deuteronomy 20, verse 1, it says, when you go out to battle against your enemies and shall see horses and chariots and people more numerous than you, do not be afraid of them, for Yahuwah your Elohim, who brought you up out of the land of Mizraim, is with you. And it shall be when you draw near to the battle that the priest shall come and speak to the people and shall say to them, hear, O Israel, you are drawing near today to battle with your enemies. Do not let your heart faint. Do not fear or tremble or be afraid before them. For Yahuwah your Elohim is he who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to save you. And the officer shall speak to the people, saying, who is the man who has built a new house and has not dedicated it? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man dedicate it. And who is the man who has planted a vineyard and has not begun to use it? Let him also go and return to his house, lest he die in battle and another man should begin to use it. And who is the man who is engaged to a woman and has not taken her? Let him go and return to his house, lest he die in the battle and another man take her. And the officer shall speak further to the people and say, who is the man who is afraid and tender of heart? Let him go and return to his house, lest the heart of his brothers faint like his heart. So in essence, you can have an impact on those that are around you. In this example, one that has fear has the potential to sway those that are around him to that same position of fear. In fact, we see an example of this take place in the scriptures. So Numbers 13, starting at verse 1. Right. So it says, and Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. Send one man from each tribe to their fathers, everyone a leader among them. And by the mouth of Yahuwah, Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran, all of them men who were heads of the children of Israel. Jumping down to verse 17, it says, and Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said to them, go up here into the south and go up to the mountains and see what the land is like, and the people who dwell in it, whether strong or weak, whether few or many, and whether the land they dwell in is good or evil, whether the cities they inhabit are in camps or strongholds, and whether the land is rich or poor, and whether there are forests there or not. And you shall be strong and bring some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the season of the first fruits of grapes. So they went up and spied out the land from the wilderness of Sin as far as Rehob, near the entrance of Hamath. And they went up through the south and came to Hebron. And Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the descendants of Anak, were there. Now Hebron had been built 7 years before Zoan and Mitzrayim or Egypt. And they came to the Wadi Eshcol and cut down from there a branch with one cluster of grapes. And they bore it between two of them on a pole, and also of the pomegranates and of the figs. That place was called the Wadi Eshcol because of the cluster which the men of Israel cut down from there. And they returned from spying out the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and Aaron and all the congregation of the children of Israel in the wilderness of Paran at Kadesh. And they brought back word to them and to all the congregation and showed them the fruit of the land. And they reported to him and said, we went to the land where you sent us, and truly it flows with milk and honey. And this is its fruit. Now, interestingly, that part is the truth, right? This is just objective fact. Truly, this is a land that flows with milk and honey. We went over there, it looks nice, right? And this is the fruit. We got the evidence, the proof to show you. But then we're going to get their opinion of the land, right? It says, but the people who dwell in the land are strong, and the cities are walled, very great. And we saw the descendants of Anak there too. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, while the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea along the banks of the Jordan. And Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and take possession, for we are certainly able to overcome it. So now this is Caleb's opinion on, okay, well, these are the facts. Yeah, they over there, but this is nothing, right? This is his perspective. It says, but the men who had gone up with him said, now we get an opinion, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they gave the children of Israel an evil report of the land which they had spied out, saying, the land through which we have gone as spies is a land eating up its inhabitants. And all the people whom we saw in it are men of great size. And we saw there the Nephilim, sons of Anak, of the Nephilim. And we were like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and so we were in their eyes. So real interesting if we can remember the diagram from last week with the car on the street, right? And one car is going up and truth is going this way, but then you was on the road of truth, and then there was a detour where you turned off on that side street, right? All that they were supposed to do was go over there and just tell, well, what is the land like? We don't need you to say if you think you can make it over there, or if you think you can't make it over there. I didn't ask all of that. All that we needed you to do is just tell us that the land is good. The Father gonna handle the rest, right? The purpose of this is so that you can see that the Father is faithful on what he said. Y'all haven't seen it yet, and y'all been complaining the whole time. We haven't seen no land of milk and honey yet. So now y'all supposed to just come back with the report, just the facts, lay it out. Yes, the Father is telling the truth. It's a land of milk and honey. He'll deal with the rest. But now, opinion is going to start swaying the whole group of the people, right? Numbers 14, verse 1, it says, Then all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. So this is that same thing what it was talking about in the passage we just read in Deuteronomy 20, right? Like you have the ability to affect those that are around you, especially by the things that you say, right? So it says, And the children of Israel grumbled against Moses and against Aaron. And all the congregation said to them, If only we had died in the land of Mizraim or Egypt, or if only we had died in this wilderness. So not only was they saying, they came to the conclusion that it was that Egypt was better. They've been complaining about the wilderness, saying that it's worse than Egypt. And they would either have rather died in the wilderness all to keep from going into the land, all because of this bad report that was shared. So it says, And why is Yahuwah bringing us to this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and children should become a prey? Would it not be better for us to turn back to Mizraim or Egypt? So real deep. Now, mind you that this was a small percentage of the nation. It's a whole nation that turned, and based off the account of 10 people. So it goes to show you the disproportionate power in the words that we say.
It's like you said, it's important to not only consider what we say and why we say it, but the condition of the hearer. And these people are vulnerable. They ain't got no high self esteem or self image. They literally just came out of slavery. Ain't got nothing to their name except for what they borrow. Ain't like I've been working or this got passed down. Nothing to really have confidence in. Don't truly know Yahuwah like that. Just been receiving of his mercy.
Mm-hmm.
Close to where we are today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. All praises. He's just been receiving of his mercy. That's a heck of a statement. All praises. Matthew 18, verse 4. It says, Whoever then humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of the heavens. And whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it is better for him that a millstone be hung around his neck and that he be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the stumbling blocks, for it is necessary that stumbling blocks come, but woe to that man by whom the stumbling block comes. Right. So again, our effect on others, like it's a serious thing because the Father is really keeping account. If you lead somebody astray from him, yeah, you're gonna have to pay the piper for that, right? Especially if you continue in that thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the question is it possible that our tongues and our opinions can be a stumbling block to another, right? So Matthew 16:21, it says, From that time Yahushua began to show his taught ones that it was necessary for him to go to Jerusalem and to suffer much from the elders and priests and scribes and be killed and to be raised again the third day. And Kepha Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, Be kind to yourself, master. This shall not be this shall not be to you. And he turned and said to Kepha, Get behind me, Hashatan, or get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for your thoughts are not those of Elohim, but those of me. Right? So, yeah, we absolutely can be a stumbling block, even unintentionally.
Yeah. Says faith comes by hearing, hearing the word of Elohim. So what does unbelief come by?
Mm, mm,
It's all tied to our meditations.
mm, mm, mm. All praises. So, as we saw in the last lesson, sometimes our opinions can be sources of strife, debate, and contention. So what can we do to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this position? right? So like we saw last week, Job and his friends, and the more that the conversation went on, the more that it became a conversation of strife, debate, and contention, right? So Colossians 3 and 12, it says, therefore, as chosen ones of Elohim, set apart and beloved, put on compassion, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, patience, bearing with one another, and forgiving each other if anyone has a complaint against another. Indeed, as Mashiach forgave you, also you should you. But above all these, put on love, which is a bond of the perfection. And let the peace of Elohim rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be filled with thanks. Let the word of Mashiach dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing with pleasure in your hearts to the Master in psalms of praise and spiritual songs. And whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Master Yahusha, giving thanks to Elohim the Father through him. So staying in that headspace and staying in that groove is a good way to get a jump start on making sure that our speech is not going to be a source of strife, debate, contention, right?
Uh-huh.
It's kind of hard for strife, debate, and contention to exist in that kind of environment. They don't occupy the same space. When one comes in, one goes out. And it's just that's how it works. So
Absolutely.
meditating on those things and keeping those things in mind, told way to for us to get a jump start on getting some getting a bearing on taming our opinions, right?
Hmm.
All praises. Colossians 4 and 2, it says, continue in prayer, watching therein with thanksgiving, praying at the same time also for us, that Elohim would open to us a door for the word to speak the secret of Mashiach, for which I am also in chains, so that I make it clear as I should speak. Walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. Let your word always be with favor, seasoned with salt, so that you know how you ought to answer each one. Right. So notice both of these, you're in a mind state and a mind frame of positivity, right? Of thanksgiving, right? Prayer, praise, right? Looking at the next individual, praying for them. So how can contention, debate, strife exist in that kind of environment? It's gonna be real difficult unless somebody opens up the door for debate, contention, and strife, right? So just something to keep in mind. Yeah, definitely. And what he said there, like praying at the same time also for us that Elohim would open up the door for the word to speak the secret of Mashiach, for which I am also in chains, so that I make it clear as I should speak, right?
Hmm.
We could all use that prayer.
Come on.
So even if I am off a little bit, it's with those things being the guide, right? We can easily maneuver
Uh-huh.
without now. No, hold on. I gotta just like Joe's friend. I gotta stand on what my opinion is on this. No, I gotta tell you about yourself. No, I gotta. No,
Hmm.
we can put that to the side. Well, my prayer is that the Father is gonna build you up and give you everything that you need to be able to represent Him properly. Right? That's what the goal is.
Hmm.
Not just for ourselves, but for one another.
Come on. This is weapons of our warfare right here. This is 2 Corinthians 10, 3 through 6. Though we are encased in this flesh, we don't war after the manner of the flesh. It's not carnal how we war. All praises to Ab Yahuwah for giving us sight beyond sight. Oh, helping us to be able to see a little bit. Speaking to us with a stammering tongue. Realizing we ain't gonna understand everything fully. Like we got a speech impediment when we trying to talk about his ways.
Mhm.
It's like we got a hearing impediment when we trying to understand his ways.
Mm.
But he dealing with us anyhow
Mhm.
and teaching us to deal with one another,
Mhm.
bearing with one another. That speaks of patience, long suffering.
Mhm.
If that's out the window, now I can hold a grudge. And if that's the case, now I can operate in unforgiveness. And now there's room for strife, debate,
Mhm.
contention, because I don't know how I ought to deal with y'all because I'm no
Mhm.
longer seeing Yahuwah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Not even paying attention to the fact that there's Ruachs all around us trying to get us off the path.
Mhm.
Ideas, pulling your mind
Mhm.
this way, pushing your mind that way,
Mhm.
giving you a glimpse of this, trying to get you to focus on the wrong things.
Mhm.
But if we choose to bear with one another, then Yahuwah can deal.
Mhm.
And then by the time you forgive, especially when somebody is wrong, then it puts the spotlight on them. And
Mhm.
Yahuwah's like, nah, let me deal with them.
Mhm.
This one over here ain't tripping over them, and they counting on me to deal with them. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
and deal with them.
Mhm. All praises. All praises. So Proverbs chapter 10, verse 11. Mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but violence covers the mouth of the wrong. Hatred stirs up strife. There go that strife again. But love covers all transgressions. Wisdom is found on the lips of him who has understanding, but a rod is for the back of him who lacks heart. The wise treasure, the wise treasure up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool is near ruin. Jumping down to verse 17. He who heeds discipline is in the way of life, but he who refuses reproof goes astray. He who hides hatred has lying lips, but and he who sends out a slander is a fool. When words are many, transgression is not absent, but he who restrains his lips is wise. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver, the heart of the wrong is of little value. The lips of the righteous shepherd many, but fools die for lack of heart. Hmm. Jumping down to verse 31. The mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the tongue of perverseness is cut out. The lips of the righteous know what is pleasing, but the mouth of the wrong speaks perverseness. Proverbs 15, verse 1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up stirs up displeasure. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge good, but the mouth of fools pours out foolishness. Huh. The tongue of the wise makes knowledge good, but the mouth of fools pours out foolishness. Hmm. There's something to ponder on, right? Like,
Because it makes me think of that scripture that says it takes a wise man to win souls.
mhm,
And it makes me also think of that scripture that says, even fools count it wise when they hold their peace.
mhm,
And so it just, putting all of that together just kind of makes me think, all right, maybe a wise tongue makes knowledge good by making it peaceable
mhm,
and easily received.
mhm,
It's not grievous. Like it says in Second Timothy, the servant of the Most High is going to
mhm,
be apt to teach. He's
mhm,
going to be, he's not going to strive. He's going to be gentle.
mhm,
He's going to be meek.
mhm,
So that's just what it calls to my mind. Like
mhm,
that could be part of what that is why and how a wise tongue will make knowledge good, because
mhm,
knowledge in itself is already good, but if you, it's like apples of gold and a pitcher of silver,
mhm,
which is like what it says about a word fitly spoken.
mhm,
Just because the knowledge is good don't mean that it's to be spoken
mhm,
at all times.
mhm,
Sometimes it's best to hold your peace.
mhm,
Soft answer can turn away wrath as well. And sometimes, no, it is time to cry loud and show somebody their faults or what's going on with them or whatever. That's just what brings to my mind.
Mhm. All praises. Definitely on one accord with that one. This is a healing tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness and it crushes the spirit. It goes right along with what Akoti was just saying. Like says in another place that the power of life and death is in the tongue. Like how you speak on a thing or to a person, it can have either a positive or a negative effect. And it's one of those things that we do have to be accountable of. So, with all this being said, our words, views, counsels, advice may carry weight and mean something to the hearer. And in some cases, they may even carry more weight to the hearer than they do even to the speaker. And that is a dangerous thing. This is why we are cautioned the way we are about idle speech. Another thing to keep in mind is that the goal is that through a person's interaction with us, the Father should be esteemed. So Matthew 5:13, it says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt becomes tasteless, how shall it be seasoned? For it is no longer of any use but to be thrown down and to be trodden down by men. You are the light of the world. It is impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. Let your light so shine before men so that they see your good works and praise your Father who is in the heavens." So, just another question is it possible for this to happen if our position on the matter is contrary to or misrepresents the Father's word? How are we going to be a light and the people see our works and give praise to Him if we not representing Him, if we darkness?
Ain't gonna work like that. Ain't gonna work like that at all.
Mm. So that means that if our ways is darkness and not light, then instead of them giving praise to the Father of light, they're gonna give praise to the Father of who? Mm.
Gonna praise the wicked. Uh, being identified by Proverbs 28. Turning away from the law
Mm-hmm.
is a discouragement to repent when you mistreat somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're inside a fire, and that fire is going to become raging, especially if they're being guided by emotions, coupled with whatever they're already going through. And yeah, it could be a real messy, dangerous situation. That's why I pray that the Father forgive us all and help us to get better and better at maintaining His ways, especially under pressure.
Mm-hmm. All praises. I definitely can agree. So jumping back in Matthew 5:17, he says, "Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete." And just keep in mind how this section right here is tied to the section that we just read before it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that question, well, how is it possible for us to do that if we're contrary to the Father? Now he's breaking it down and saying, nah, and don't think that I'm telling you to do anything other than, right? Says, "I did not come to destroy, but to complete. For truly I say to you, till the heavens and the earth pass away, one yod or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of the heavens. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall by no means enter into the kingdom of the heavens." So it's just something for us to think about. Keep in mind is we keep seeing this level of accountability that he's holding to his ambassadors, to those that are saying that they put his name on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then better not be leading nobody astray from him, right? So it really is important. Know what your opinions are, know where they come from, know what the sources are, and know whether or not they need to be dealt with within you before they come out. Like it's a lot that goes into this, right? Because we will be held accountable for it. Like I said, Father, definitely have compassion on us all, because it's a topic in the scriptures for a reason. I just put it that way. It's not the easiest thing for humankind to tame. It can be done, but it's going to require certain diligence and certain uh, discipline.
Yeah. Um, the more he allows us to make it plain what this spiritual warfare actually is, what's involved in it, the easier to be able to see why he said what he said. Looking at verse 20. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall by no means enter into the reign of the heavens. Is that Ephesians 6, um, talking about principalities
Mm,
in high places?
mm,
There's a lot going on that we don't see. Our job is to do our best to make it easy for somebody to choose Yahuwah's ways.
mhm,
Monkey see, monkey do.
mhm,
So we're teaching by our actions and our words. If we take a step back, we can see that we are teaching from our meditations,
mhm,
because that's what we're going to speak and act out of.
mhm, mhm. All praises.
But his law governs everything. And those ruachs that have been ruling the world for so long are still governed by his law.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
we enter into his rest, we can enter into the reign of the heavens.
mhm, mhm. All praises. All praises. So a look at Moses, right? So we're gonna start looking at Moses. Um, it's definitely a lesson to be learned here, right? So we're going to see that even for a man with a character such as Moses, an opinion of and how you choose to operate based on that opinion can still get you in trouble with the Father. We will see that he erred from the Father's word because at that moment he was too opinionated, much like we saw with Jonah in our earlier study. Also, just like Jonah, we see that it was his experience with dealing with the people that caused him to form this opinion. We're going to see how there isn't any room for us to lean on our own opinions when it comes to the Father, not even when they are founded in our experiences. At the end of the day, there is an accountability to properly represent the Father regardless of how we feel. So, Numbers chapter 12, starting at verse 1, it says, Now Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman he had taken, for he had taken a Cushite woman. And they said, Has Yahuwah spoken only through Moses? Has he not also spoken through us? And Yahuwah heard it. And the man Moses was very humble, more than all men who were on the face of the earth. So Moses is not just some run of the mill guy, right? And if he can get caught up and tripped up, then yeah, it can't be it can't be that hard to do. I just put it that way, like, because yeah, if it was able to get him, yeah. So we're not only going to see Moses' opinion of the people, but I also want us to pay attention to how Moses is gradually affected by the opinions of others, right? So cognitive bias, right? The effect heuristic. We touched on it last week, but here's what it is. It's a mental shortcut where people rely on emotions to make quick automatic decisions instead of taking the time to consider the long-term consequences, right? So you got a picture of the heart and the mind, and the heart got the mind like it's a stick up.
Uh-huh.
You, hands in the air, you're gonna do what I tell you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I found that picture funny, and you just see the the mind doing exactly what the heart tells them to do. right? So just something to keep in mind.
It's deep. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Talking about Moshe, praying for the people, willing to die for the people, interceding for the people, teaching the people, all the while the people tripping, stumbling, falling all over themselves, messing themselves like babies. And this is going on. For we wrestle against principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness against the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
Mhm.
You know they ain't never gonna repent.
Mhm.
You know they ain't never gonna get right. They like what
Mhm.
they doing. They
Mhm.
doing it on purpose,
Mhm.
progressively inciting you to believe a lie,
Mhm.
and then you finally trip
100%
up and
facts.
believe it, regardless of how long. But you trip up and believe it. Now you is like, I
Mhm.
thought you was on my side. I
Mhm.
told you this was war.
Mhm.
You overlooking which type of war.
Mhm. 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 Praises.
Just to add to that, I was looking up idle talk on Google. I thought it was interesting what was said here. So the question is, what is idle talk? You could say anything which does not build up and edify yourself or others in the truth would be idle talk. Discussions that cause doubt rather than building up your faith may be another example. So that was interesting to me. So again, like we were talking about previously, that how your tongue should be healing. Yeah, the healing tongue is a tree of life. Okay, so yeah, so it's like there's a difference between your speech should be healing and encouraging and uplifting other people, not causing them to doubt who they serve or doubt if they should continue to push forward or move on. You know, they shouldn't feel like they have to give up. They should feel encouraged and uplifted by whatever you're saying, which automatically leads to the esteem of the Father because you're uplifting His name. You know, because you're talking about Him and trying to encourage someone else. So yeah, it's a lot because when we talk, we open our mouth. All of it's kind of what we do. You know, our speech, our opinions. So it's a. I'm just thinking about it's a definitely deep to think about. I'm just thinking about it all.
All praises. All praises. So Moses' interaction with the people, right? So Exodus chapter 2, verse 11. We're gonna kind of follow this story a little bit, and excuse me, really like just look at the things that went into what all happened at the big boom, right? Um, Exodus 2:11 it says, "And in those days it came to be when Moses was grown that he went out to his brothers and looked at their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. So he turned this way and that, and when he saw no one, he struck the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And he went out the second day and saw two Hebrew men fighting. And he said to them, and he said to the one who did the wrong, 'Why do you strike your neighbor?' And he said, 'Who made you a head and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?' Moses feared and said, 'Truly the matter is known.' And Pharaoh heard of this matter, and he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well." So here we see that Moses risked his own life for the sake of defending his people. It's worth noting how he was treated after putting so much on the line for him, right? And notice that he is trying to reason with the man who was wrong. And so, just something to, as we keep building the case, We're gonna see just how easy it is. Like you said, you add in everything else, and it's like, oh yeah, no, I see how it got. I mean, it was a long, long game.
Oh yeah. Blessed is he that endures unto the end.
Hmm. Hmm. All praises. So jumping to Exodus 4 and 29. It says, and Moses went with Aaron and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. Now, this is after he had a visitation from the Father, and he got a task at hand, right? And Aaron spoke all the words which Yahuwah had spoken to Moses. Then he did the signs in the eyes of the people, and the people believed. And they heard that Yahuwah had visited the children of Israel and that he had looked on their affliction, and they bowed their heads and did obeisance. Exodus 5, verse 1. And afterwards, Moses and Aaron went in and said to Pharaoh, thus said Yahuwah Elohim of Israel, let my people go so that they celebrate a festival to me in the wilderness. So here we have when things going told, when things going good, people got some act right. Right?
All too familiar.
And now it's time to get to work. So now Moses and Aaron, you know, they gonna go in, they gonna start handling the business that they said they was gonna handle. Verse 6, it says, in the same day, after Moses and Aaron come to talk to Pharaoh, like what they said, and the same day Pharaoh commanded the slave drivers of the people and their foremen, saying, you are no longer to give the people straw and to make bricks as before. Let them go and gather straw for themselves and lay on them the required amount of bricks which they made before. Do not diminish it, for they are idle. That is why they cry out, saying, let us go and slaughter to our Elohim. Let more work be laid on the men so that they labor in it and not pay attention to words of falsehood. Jumping down to verse 20. And when they came out from Pharaoh, they met Moses and Aaron and stood there to meet them. And they said to them, let Yahuwah look on you and judge, because you have made us loathsome in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants, to give a sword in their hand to kill us. Now, what's ironic is leading up to this and say is Exodus chapter 2, Exodus 1, Exodus 2, right in there, they tell you that the Pharaoh that was before and that knew their ancestors and that knew Joseph, he was no more. And now you got new Pharaoh and new regime in, and they don't care nothing about the Hebrews. And so we know that at this time, Moses is, it says in what Acts that he was 80 years old when he went back to his people. So
he reigned as king for 40, and he was 40 when he got there.
So that means that the Pharaoh, they've been getting mistreated harshly and getting dealt with harshly for quite some time now, right? Like Moses, this is the same Moses that is 80 now that when he was a baby was thrown in the water for persecution because they was doing just this thing right here, killing the people, right? So is it really that Moses is causing them to feel some type of way? Or is that just the heat of the moment? This is how we seeing it because things didn't turn out the way that we wanted them to turn out, right? He said, you made us loathsome in the eyes of Pharaoh. But it says in Exodus 1 and in Exodus 2 that as they began to multiply, that this is exactly what they became in the eyes of Pharaoh. So just keep in mind that, again, in the heat of the moment, that affect heuristic, you can get thrown off in your emotion, and now you formed an opinion on the situation that really wasn't really the case when you really stop and look at it from some logic. Well, what really changed? We were slaves before, we slaves still. What really changed? They turned up the heat a little bit, but what really has changed in this situation? So it says, and Moses returned to Yahuwah and said, Yahuwah, why have you done evil to this people? Why did you send me? Huh. So now we see Moses being what? Affected by the opinions of the people. Hmm. Hmm. For ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you have not delivered your people at all. Hmm. Jump into Exodus 6, starting at verse 1. It says, and Yahuwah said to Moses, now see what I do to Pharaoh, for with the strong hand he is going to let them go. And with the strong hand he is going to drive them out of his land. Hmm. Jumping down to verse 9, it says, and Moses spoke thus to the children of Israel, but they did not listen to Moses because of shortness of spirit and from hard slavery. So it's some other forces at play that's putting up some walls and some barriers of why the people can't see what's really going on. Right? This hard labor, this hard slavery. We short of spirit.
And what did it say earlier in the script that happens to a man for lack of heart?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. It's not the people that was in position, it's the Ruachs that's having expression through those people in those positions. That's why certain positions are dominated now. And ain't gonna be given up without a fight. And if they see you approaching one of them positions, literally all hell break loose against you. So it behooves us to really get our bearings on this. Because Yahuwah has told plans. But if we ain't solid with him, we're just gonna be destroyed in the process. Either by Yahuwah or by the wickedness of this world because we ain't girded correctly.
All praises. Jumping down to Exodus 14, verse 8. And Yahuwah strengthened the heart of Pharaoh, the sovereign of Mizraim or Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel, but the children of Israel went out defiantly. And the Egyptians pursued them, and all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them, camping by the sea of Pi Hahiroth before Baal Zephon. And when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes and saw the Egyptians coming after them. And they were greatly afraid. So the children of Israel cried out to Yahuwah. And they said to Moses, did you take us away to die in the wilderness because there are no burial sites in Egypt? What is this you have done to us to bring us up out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, leave us alone and let us serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. And then, as we saw earlier, they said it'd be better for us to die in the wilderness than for us to go into the.
That's how the mind works, ain't it?
Man. All praises. So, Exodus 15:22. And Moses brought Israel from the Sea of Reeds, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. So now they've been delivered, and they get into the wilderness, and there's a few days that done passed after the deliverance. Now, what's going to happen? And they came to Marah, and they were unable to drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. So the name of it was called Marah, and the people grumbled against Moses, saying, what are we to drink? So Moses is becoming a fall guy.
You can actually hit him with a stone.
Everything that don't go the way they want it to go, It's because of Moses, right?
But then in the morning when he died,
Mm.
scapegoat.
Exodus 16, verse 1. And they set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second new moon after their going out from the land of Mitzrayim. And all the congregation of the children of Israel grumbled against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said to them, if only we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Mizraim, when we sat by the pots of meat, and when we ate bread to satisfaction. For you have brought us into this wilderness to put all this assembly to death with hunger. At least I would have died with a full stomach.
That's cold piece. That's foul. Oh, that's foul. Until you back in that situation, you actually experiencing the pain and you remember just how gruesome it is.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, when that pressure ain't on you, yeah, you can run your mouth.
Mm-hmm. Grass always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
And you get to the other side and then you look back over there. I was hungry out there, but at least I wasn't getting beat on. And at least I wasn't. Mm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jumping down to verse 7, it says, and in the morning you shall see the esteem of Yahuwah, for he hears your grumblings against Yahuwah. And what are we that you grumble against us? And Moses said, in that Yahuwah gives you meat to eat in the evening, and in the morning bread to satisfaction, for Yahuwah hears your grumblings which you make against him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against Yahuwah. Now, if he stayed in this mindset right here, he got a fighting chance.
That part.
Can't take this personal. Who are we? I ain't nobody. Y'all keep making us the fall guys, but it ain't me who you mad with, right?
Come on.
If he'd have stayed there, he'd have had half a fighting chance. What we're gonna see is a process of he gonna start to make this thing, it becomes personal for him, because the same way that they doing him and same way that they've always done him is the same way that they doing the Father. They doing the Father the same way. I can relate to how the Father feels. I can relate to how they doing the Father, because they do me the same way, right? Can't do nothing for these people. And it's gonna keep on building until it gets to a point to where he overcome by it.
Yep.
So Exodus 17, starting at verse 1. It says, and all the congregation of the children of Israel set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, according to the mouth of Yahuwah, and camped in Rephidim. And there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people strove with Moses and said, give us water to drink. And Moses said to them, why do you strive with me? Why do you try Yahuwah? So now we both in the same category. We both in the same group. And the people thirsted there for water. And the people grumbled against Moses and said, why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? Then Moses cried to Yahuwah, saying, what am I to do with these people? Yet a little, and they shall stone me. They about to kill me. What am I supposed to do with these people? So now, all of a sudden, you notice that a division is made. He's not part of the people. Right? So notice how we're going to start to see Moses' experiences with the people start to weigh on him. We are going to see how his experiences with them is going to cause him to form an opinion about them. This opinion he holds of the people is going to affect how he obeys what the Father instructed him to do for them later on. So now we jump into Exodus 18, verse 12, chugging right on along, right? We don't have much longer left to go. Exodus 18, verse 12, it says, then Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, brought an ascendant offering and other slaughterings unto Elohim. And Aaron came with him with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moses before Elohim. And it came to be on the next day that Moses sat to rightly rule the people. And the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. So the sun came out and they bring in their issues, they disputes. It's his fault, pointing to the fingers and whatever else they have going on, right? All the way until the evening. And on top of that, he's not no spring chicken. All day long, this is what's going on. And when the father-in-law of Moses saw all that he did for the people, he said, "What is this that you are doing for the people? Why do you sit by yourself and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?" This man crazy. And Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people come to me to seek Elohim. When they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another and make known the laws of Elohim and his Torah. And the father-in-law of Moses said to him, What you are doing is not good. Both you and these people with you shall certainly wear yourselves out. For the matter is too heavy for you. You are not able to do it by yourself." So now we see that Moses is being what? Affected again by the opinion of somebody else. As you read more in that chapter, I didn't put it in the lesson for the sake of time, but as you read more in that chapter, you see that everything what his father-in-law told him to do, he went and did that. Without consulting with the father, he just went and did it. Right? Now, that's not to say that it was a bad idea, but that wasn't led by the instruction of the father. That wasn't the father's. As he said in another place, I speak with him face to face. So if I wanted you to do that, I could have told you. Right? But again, he falling, victim to the weight of the situation, basically, right?
Weary and well doing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you forget where your source of strength is. Yeah, I'll just leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, just notice here in verse 16, when they have a matter, they come to me, and I rightly rule between one and another, making known the laws of Elohim and his Torah. So that's, just one of those examples that if we are to speak, or give advice, or, if someone comes to us for help, or whatever the case may be, rightly rule according to the laws of Elohim and his Torah. And that's how you can make sure that, I guess, it's not idle. To make sure that the words that are coming out of your mouth are not idle and that they are purposeful, because situations will occur to where people will ask you for advice and for help, especially as you're growing more into the walk and the truth, and your light is shining forth. So I would just say always make sure that your focus is on Yahuwah and rightly ruling between what Yahuwah says, and making sure that it's not your words, but bringing someone back to the Father.
All praises. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. Yeah, excellent point. Um, we also know that at a later point, the father did appoint that same setup. The father appointed it, but it was something that he did when the father did it that didn't happen in this case. He said that he took the spirit of that same spirit that he put on Moses, he poured out on them, and now they was fit to operate within that. But yeah, just something to keep in mind that sometimes, as Ak has been saying, some of the times the things that we war against is beyond even the scope of the physical. This is a word that's spoken at an opportune time. get him to operate on his own strength instead of by what the Father is instructing. So it's just something to think about.
Hmm.
Mm.
Matthew 4.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All praises. So jumping to Exodus 32, starting at verse 1, it says, "And when the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered together to Aaron and said to him, 'Arise, make us mighty ones who go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him.'" Hmm. Poor Moses. Moses is just, he gets the blame for everything.
Hmm. Like, it's deep. With the condition that the people are in, like literally the dark side has all access to them. That's where we coming from.
Mhm.
So then the father is raising up one. The father got you. As
Mhm.
long as you focused on him, you can keep walking
Mhm.
on the water.
Mhm.
But when you get distracted by the wind and the waves, and the fact that you standing on water,
Mhm.
yeah, it
Mhm.
can be trouble.
Mhm. Mhm. All praises. Of verse 6, he says, "And they arose early on the next day and offered ascendant offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. And Yahuwah said to Moses, 'Go, get down, for your people whom you brought out of the land of Mizraim have corrupted themselves.'" Even the father, your people who you brought.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. He says, "They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded calf and have bowed themselves to it and slaughtered to it and said, 'This is your mighty one, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim.' And Yahuwah said to Moses, 'I have seen this people, and see, it is a stiff-necked people.'" So this is the father's opinion about the people. Moses not too far off base.
Because even with that, being attached to Alua or Elohim, you have to operate in a manner above that.
Mm-hmm.
See it, don't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Not defiled with it, not affected by it.
Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, this is when he goes into, "No, they your people, and remember what you said you was gonna do." And so he intercedes for the people on their behalf. Right now, he could have got wrapped up in that, and it's step aside, move
Right.
off to the side. I'm gonna start over with you. And the minute that he say, "Yes, sir, boss," then that's the minute that he ain't gonna be fit for the task.
That part.
So just something to keep in mind, right? So Exodus 32, verse 19, it says, "And it came to be as soon as he came near the camp," he just got done interceding for the people. "No, they're your people. Remember your people." Yeah. But the closer that he get, the more that he start to hear and see what's going on, the more that the temperature rise.
Vexation.
And it came to be as soon as he came near the camp that he saw the calf and the dancing. Now, remember that quote unquote effect heuristic. Something is going to affect him in his state. Now you're gonna see all that I just said. I'm about to jump off the porch. I can't take it no more. Right. So what has something is happening that's altering this state. It says, "And Moses' displeasure burned, and he threw the tablets out of his hand and broke them at the foot of the mountain." Now, again, remember what that effect heuristic was. You acting in a moment, but you didn't think about the long term effects and the you didn't you're not thinking about that because you just acting in that moment. I just did this, but is the father gonna be mad because I just that much displeasure
Or the fact
and
that he
heat?
spent all that time with the father, and you gotta go back and do it again. Not that it was,
Mm-hmm.
not that it was, bad, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
but he don't even know at this point if the father is gonna let him come up and do it again.
Yeah.
Like
That
that's
part.
the thing. You it's by the father's compassion that he even reason was reasonable enough to be like, you know what?
The anger.
Yeah, because it tells you in 34, like after some time passed and the people been trying to get some act right, then he's finally like, okay, you know what? Go get the stones. We're gonna do this again, right? But when Moses is throwing them down, he don't know that that's the game plan. He just acting.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And the severity of it is what's on them tablets.
Mm-hmm.
That is the lifeline. That's your phone a friend. That's everything. That is the covenant. Like literally in your anger, you done cut off all the people from the covenant.
Ooh.
You just sentence everybody to death.
Mm-hmm.
That's what wickedness wants us to be guilty of with one another
Mm-hmm.
as we slip and slide on this narrow path.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the father got everything being recorded because he ain't got time. Because he's like, if I look at him, I'm gonna squash one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell me later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna look over there. Yeah, I hear him.
Mm-hmm.
Get them together first.
Mhm.
Get them together first.
Mhm.
That one's still listening. Send him over here.
Mm-hmm.
Don't draw my attention over there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then the ones that are being set apart, the enemy wants to come wring your neck to get you to cut the people off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All praises.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
All praises to you, Lord.
When you look at it like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you say no more mercy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then what we gonna get?
Mm-hmm.
And then all that stuff that hasn't disappeared, he's just overlooking it. He's drawing right back to his attention because y'all said no more mercy.
Mm-hmm.
So now I see, yeah, I could have been sorry. I'm choosing to overlook it. The enemy wants us to forget that.
Mm-hmm. I look for a man
Like
to
our
stand in
wrongs
the
ain't
gap.
undone. He's choosing to
Mhm.
overlook them.
Mm-hmm. Big difference. My oh my. Mm. 20. All praises. And he took the calf which they had made and burned it in the fire and ground it into powder and scattered it on the face of the water and made the children of Israel drink it. And Moses said to Aaron, now notice what his reasoning is on this. What did this people do to you that you have brought so great a sin upon them? So I know these people. What did they do this time?
That part.
Because you ain't thinking like yourself. It had to be the people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Why else would he make an idol?
Mm.
Aaron was with him the whole time with the plagues and live deliverance of
Oh,
Israel.
it's not funny, but it's like
Yeah,
the
no.
logic, all of the logic of all parties involved, them boom, it's out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, he was right there with him. He was the
Literally.
mouthpiece.
Come on.
That's what
Everything Moshe saw, he saw.
That ain't went nowhere. So literally, like I said, or like the scripture says,
Mm-hmm.
what did it do to you?
Mm-hmm.
Call back to last week's lesson, part 3.
Mhm.
Skin for skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What they threatened him with?
Mm-hmm.
What were they going to do to him?
Mm-hmm.
That was worse than death.
Yeah.
Because you know Yahuwah gonna kill you for this. What was worse than death in that moment?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Then you got yeah. It really is deep to show how the state of someone else it can alter you.
So
It can
it's gonna
affect
be
you.
unequally yoked. Give me,
Mhm.
didn't mean to cut you off.
All praises. Mm-hmm. Yep. All praises.
And that's why we're instructed not to be unequally yoked.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being heartless. It's not about not caring. It's about literally trying to endure unto the end, realizing that everything is riding on this.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
To receive mercy is riding on this.
Mm-hmm.
Baby gets sick, you don't know what's gonna happen. It's all riding on this.
Like right along with not being unequally yoked, it tells us evil communications can corrupt good morals. So yeah, our who we're around and their attitude, their spirit, their disposition
Mhm.
and all of that, it can literally rub off on us
Mhm.
and change
Mhm.
our outlook, change our disposition,
Mhm.
even if it doesn't change to theirs,
Mhm.
as if, oh, they think this way, I'm going to think this way too. No, it can change us to something that's outside of us.
Mhm.
You know, they might
Mhm.
have a totally off perception of something, totally
Mhm.
off disposition, whereas our disposition is something completely different. But in response to what they think, whether it's irritation or whatever it is, now we can still be acting outside of ourselves because
Mhm.
they didn't got about get on our nerve. Listen, you over here talking crazy,
Mhm.
whatever, whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
And now I'm still not acting the way that I know I
Mhm.
would or should normally act,
Mhm.
being changed by somebody else.
Mhm.
It's
Be
interesting.
not friends with an angry man unless you take on his ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right.
Mhm. All praises. Verse 22. It says, And Aaron said, Do not let the displeasure of my master burn. You know the people, that it is an evil. Hmm. And they said to me, Make us mighty ones who go before us, for this Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Mizraim, we do not know what has become of him. So notice here both of their opinion of the people. Mm.
It's deep. Know that it is in evil.
Hmm. Hmm.
In another place, it talks about people being in Messiah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Just something to think about.
Hmm. All praises.
I was just thinking it's kind of to me it's kind of weird the wording like this people it is in evil the nation this nation is in evil. Okay, it makes sense to me like that.
Hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah. Again, think about the condition. They've come from tumultuous subjugation. It wasn't ruled by shalom. It was ruled by torment. It affects the mind. Those who have an idea of the possible benefits and the money to pay for it get psychotherapy.
Hmm.
We the most abused, undiagnosed, overlooked, and mistreated people,
Hmm.
in my perspective.
Hmm.
I know there's others that go through similar things, but as far as worldwide,
Hmm.
in every nation,
Hands down. Scripture. Hands
Hmm.
down.
Hmm.
and that was a just judgment because we started to live, move, and have our being in evil.
Hmm. Yes, indeed. Mm. Home stretch. Moses' opinion of the people. Numbers 11, starting at verse 1. It says, And it came to be when the people were as complainers. It was evil in the ears of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah heard it, and his displeasure burned. And the fire of Yahuwah burned among them and consumed those in the outskirts of the camp. Mm. And the people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to Yahuwah, and the fire died down. Then he called the name of the place Taberah because the fire of Yahuwah had burned among them. And the mixed multitude who were in their midst lusted greatly. So the children of Israel wept, also wept again and said, Who is giving us meat to eat? We remember the fish which we ate in the without cost in Mizraim, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our being is dried up. There is not to look at but this manna. So now notice again how people being swayed by company opinions of others, right? Like this is a real thing
Uh-huh.
that, and why the father is like, I'm gonna hold you accountable, right?
Hmm.
Because it's a real thing. You can be altering the state of those around you just by, as Akoti says, your disposition on the matter.
Yeah.
Mm. Jumping down to verse 10, it says, And Moses heard the people weeping throughout their clans, each man at the door of his tent, and the displeasure of Yahuwah burned exceedingly. And in the eyes of Moses, it was evil. Oh, now hold on. Wait a minute now. We messing up. Again, you keep putting your nose in the father's business, and all he needs you to do is just do what he asking you to do. And now you going again, you taking personal what's the father's business, and you gonna get yourself in trouble. So it says, so Moses said to Yahuwah, why have you done evil to your servant? And why have I not found favor in your eyes to put the burden of all these people on me? Now notice again how he being affected and swayed by the situation and by the voice of the people. Was it I who conceived all these people? Was it I who brought them forth? That you should say to me, carry them in your bosom, as the foster father carries a nursing child to the land which you swore to your fathers, to their fathers. Where am I to get meat to give all these people? For they weep before me, saying, give us meat to eat. I am unable to bear these people alone, because the burden is too heavy for me. And if you are doing this to me, kill me. Please kill me, if I have found favor in your eyes, and let me not see my evil. Mm. Now you starting to talk like them.
Exactly.
You starting to sound like how they sound.
Against the Father. Your people.
Looking at it the wrong way.
Mm.
Instead of feeling personally attacked and feeling like they're Elohim, like you have to solve their problem.
Mm.
So just lay back in the cut, like, man,
Mm.
people are sick.
Mm.
Just keep praying for them.
Mm.
Keep trusting the Father.
Mm.
Go ahead. No. I was gonna say, and it just it he's doing what he's supposed to do.
That's where I was gonna go with it. Yep, all praise. Yep.
I'm sorry, I don't want to
No,
like.
go ahead. All praise.
I was thinking like he's doing what he's supposed to do, but the perception that he's taking with it, like, yes, he's supposed to intercede for the people. The people bring the problems to him. But he said, man, like Doc was saying, like like Mike was saying, like, keep praying for the people and step back a little bit. So he's doing what he's supposed to do, but now he's taking it personal though. And so it's like that perception. He's internalizing it as if no, they really are coming at me. And it's just like modern day. We see it all the time when somebody get upset with a company, who they talking to crazy? The customer service. Customer service don't make no decisions. Customer service don't
Just doing their job.
right.
That's how they do.
They don't pay nobody's
job.
paycheck. They get the paycheck. But we always see and hear, I used to work customer service. So we always are being the face of the company. We always get the blunt end of the stick and get beat on and beat on and beat on and beat on and beat on, verbally abused, talk too crazy, all of that. You know, right, because somebody else mad about their situation. And so it just struck me as I'm looking at this, like he's doing what he's supposed to do, except the perception is a little bit different. No, don't, not this. Please kill me. Like, no, Father, you hear their cries. You hear what they're asking. Excuse me. You hear what they're asking about and asking for, and you hear how they are hurting. Please see about your people. This is what their desire is, and if this cannot be fulfilled, give me a word to give them and teach me how to deal. That kind of situation. Like, yeah, it's just wow because like we literally do this still, like still.
I think that was a great example with the face of the company customer service department. How do you survive that uh, work position? Remember, I just work here.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why they're mad at me.
Listen,
I'm just doing my job. Just doing my job.
That's the whoa. When I worked on them,
before they even ask, you know what? That is a great question. Let me go ahead and get my manager, and they're gonna tell you the same
Come
thing. I know good well they're gonna tell you the same thing I just told you, but you're gonna hear from me.
Yeah, so then instead of Father give them what they want, it's Father help them see that what you have provided is enough.
Also, one that notice the father has already started dealing with it before he said anything. The father already done broke the fire out and already relented from it.
Come on.
So he already on the job.
Uh-huh.
And it's almost like to that Moshe, it's like it's a cry for help to the Father. Because notice how you said the last thing he said, and not let me see my evil. So he's like, okay, look, I can see myself breaking down here. I know I'm getting emotional. I'm acting out of my emotions. Father, help me. I'm not trying to see my evil. I'm not trying to be evil before you or before the people. Help me out. And praises Abiyahuah, he gave Moshe the answer in the next verse. But it's like, yeah, you cry out for help, like Father, I need some help here, and I see that too, like crying out for help, and just it's important to recognize, when you are about to slip up, when you are in that emotional state, let me get myself together. I need your help because I'm about to slip. I'm slipping, I'm falling, and I can't get up. I'm slipping, I'm falling, I can't get up. But yeah,
all praises.
All praises. Yeah, he's in a heck of a position. That yeah.
Heavy matters,
Woo wee.
like the weight of a people. But you ain't gotta bear it. All you gotta do is bear it with them.
I appreciate looking at these scripts, and I appreciate that the Father would even have mercy on us to give us these scripts for this time, in this time, because we can. And instead of looking at this and say, "Oh, what he should have done," no, it's like we still go through this to this day. Let me learn from this. Let me glean from this. Let me understand. This is where I have the same exact potential to fall short. This is where I do fall short. Let somebody come around me with a bad attitude, and I'm
You ain't even gotta have that bad of an attitude.
right.
It don't take much to ruin the day to get the blood boiling.
Listen, little bit is all it takes on many days.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, like when you look back at it, it's like, yeah, oh, no, that wasn't really that serious. But in that moment, it feel like it. Like,
So yeah, like I appreciate just being able to go over these scriptures and glean from them and understand, like, nah, this is where they fail. This is what we have to guard against. So, and I think rather than looking at each of these stories and each of these scriptures and thinking, oh, this person was great, because we revere Moses, like, hey, he one of the top three, like, no, as opposed to that, it's like, no, let's look at both their downfalls, their shortcomings, and let's look at their strong points. What did they excel in? Where did they fall short? Because, hey, even on my best days, I ain't doing this. I ain't, I ain't, interceding like this. Like,
imagine what Yehukanan Mercer said
come
about
on.
Mashiach. I can't even unstrap his sandals. And then he talking about Mashiach. I'm saying anybody else under Mashiach, I ain't even fit to unstrap
That
their
part.
sandals.
That
And they
part.
can't unstrap his.
Come
And
on.
we called to be on his level. Like,
Listen,
really think about that. Woo. Yeah.
man. I just wanted to take some time and say I appreciate the Most High for His words. For real.
Mhm. All praises.
It just makes me think about Matthew 24:22, just that one verse. And if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days shall be shortened because of the wickedness that's going on in the world. So it's hard for even the ones that are righteous, but those days have to be shortened because of all that is occurring. So yeah, that's exactly. It's hard. Yeah. Even the righteous scarcely make it, exactly.
All praises. All right, so it's just jumping to Numbers 20, verse 2. It says, that there was no water for the congregation, and they assembled against Moses and against Aaron. And the people contended with Moses and spoke, saying, if only we had died when our brothers died before Yahuwah. Oh, my dear. Why have you brought up the assembly of Yahuwah into this wilderness that we and our livestock should die here? And why have you brought us up out of Mitzrayim or Egypt to bring us to this evil place? Not a place of grain or figs or vines or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink. And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the door of the tent of appointment, and they fell on their faces, and the esteem of Yahuwah appeared to them. And Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, take the rod and assemble the congregation, you and your brother Aaron, and you shall speak to the rock before their eyes, and it shall give its water. And you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and give drink to the congregation and their livestock. And Moses took the rod from before Yahuwah as he commanded him. He was on that street, and then he about to take a detour. And Moses and Aaron assembled the assembly before the rock, and he said to them, hear now, you rebels, shall we bring water for you out of this rock? Full blown opinion, his opinion of the people, his very low opinion of the people on display. While it may have even been warranted, they were stiff necked. You in a different position. You represent the Father. His name is on the line. Mm-hmm.
And you were as a prophet,
Mm.
you're 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 who they're looking at you.
I
Now
could
they're
have.
speaking to you, and then you have to speak to the people.
He could have just chose out anybody to do that.
That part.
Like he could have chose anybody to do that right there to get fed up with the people and uh, nah, he was chosen specifically for a purpose. That was the weight that was on
Mhm.
him.
This is Galatians 6:1. It says, brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, you which are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of meekness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted.
Mm. Mm.
Not saying you're gonna be tempted in the same manner, which is a lot of
Mm.
times why we don't really pay attention to this. 'Cause like,
Mm.
I ain't doing that.
Mm. Mm.
No,
Mm.
they were overcome
Mm.
with darkness. That's just how it
Mm.
spilled over.
Mm.
Be careful so you ain't overcome with darkness.
Mm. All praises. That right there. All praises. Verse 11, it says, then Moses lifted his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod, and much water came out, and the congregation and their livestock drank. But Yahuwah spoke to Moses and to Aaron, because you did not believe me, to set me apart in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore, you do not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. So we see here Moses' opinion of the people ultimately hurt him. Because of this, he wasn't permitted to enter into the land. Notice that in that moment, he allowed his opinion of the people affect how he served Yahuwah.
What was the reason the father said?
Hmm. Didn't
For your
esteem me.
unbelief.
Hmm. Hmm.
Unbelief is not a. It's not as generalized as
Hmm.
we often perceive it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Belief and unbelief is moment to moment, moment to moment, moment to
Hmm.
moment,
Hmm.
moment to moment, moment to moment, moment to
Hmm.
moment. It's not just like, oh, I believe I just had a bad day. No, you had a moment of unbelief.
Hmm.
You forgot the Father is,
Hmm.
and you acted out of Him not being.
Hmm. 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 All praises. All praises. Hmm.
Just kind of laying back and off of that unbelief situation, like, yeah, and it it can look like many different things. It can
Hmm.
take a bunch of different forms.
Hmm.
Like it can be, as we see here, manifested in like a moment of anger.
Hmm.
It still boils down to, when you break it down to its elemental so or
Hmm.
el- to its core element, it's
Hmm.
unbelief,
Hmm.
fear.
Hmm.
When you break that down, it can be
Hmm.
broken down to its core element, which is unbelief at
Hmm.
times. And so, with this being angry, look here, you rebels. And instead of, right, you can't get right.
Blessed of the Most High, who will be healed.
Hmm.
Ain't no life in that Satan.
Mm-hmm. And instead of, look what the Most High is doing for you now.
Hmm.
Like he said, sanctifying me before the people. Then boom, hit the rock, let the water come out. Nah, you speaking like you said, like you just said, you can't get rights.
Hmm.
Hard headed, stiff necked,
Hmm.
crazy folks.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's wild.
Hmm.
And that's what's so deep about the scriptures that have come out in this lesson. Bearing with one another, forgiving one another. In that moment that I forget to bear with you, in that moment that I don't forgive you, I'm calling you a can't get right.
Hmm.
I'm basically believing that Yahuwah ain't gonna heal you. This is the way it's always gonna be.
Hmm.
And that's what wickedness, those principalities, is trying to get us convicted of.
Hmm.
It's not a conscious decision. This is emotional distress.
Hmm.
It's being overwhelmed.
Hmm.
It's running out of fuel, running on your own strength.
Hmm.
It's all these things that are very natural, but we're called to be supernatural,
Hmm.
not in our own might.
Hmm.
Day in and day. When we think about it, like, because literally, we are called to deal with and bear one another. And we don't even like some of our own family because they get on our god doggone nerves. And yeah, like when we think about it and bring it full circle into here and today, it's wild. Like literally, we're still dealing with this and still go through this.
Especially during this season, I thought it was right on time. Like as I started really looking at it, like, oh yeah, during that time in that season where it's easy for us to take a judgmental position towards those that are not of this walk,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, we know all of the through and throughs of why we ought not to be partaking in none of these things. And by no stretch of the imagination, and by no means, please don't confuse me with saying we ought to. But I am saying that we can have some control over our thought processes towards others and instead of using that as an opportunity to condemn folk, maybe use it as an opportunity to go into prayer for an individual, go into trying to reason with an individual if they'll have it. And if not, then all praises. I'm gonna sleep well at night, knowing that I'm in the Father's hands. But what we don't want to be is on the side of the accuser,
There we go.
doing his bidding and his work. Remember what he said in Job: skin for skin.
Hmm.
Is it for naught? Like they all this way. No, the Father always. He not now. Let me preface this by saying he not no fool. He know all ain't gonna be saved. Yeah, it ain't gonna work that way.
Come
But
on.
I at least got a remnant out there,
Hmm.
and because it's a remnant out there, it's worth it.
Hmm.
For the whole, I leave the whole flock here to go and find the one lost one. Like that's the Father's mentality about it. So, like, yeah, it really is. It's deep when we think about it.
Hmm.
And it's easy to be in that position of just like what we saying here, like you rebels. You no good, you this, that, and the third, can't get rights, ain't never gonna get right. It's because the wickedness is in your heart, and this, or maybe it's just for a lot of us, short of spirit, under heavy burdens, right?
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that everybody gonna make it in. Of course, I'm not saying that. Even the righteous scarcely make it, but we at least gonna hold out hope. The Father always does. That
Yeah.
at least I'm gonna be able to find a remnant out there.
Yeah.
It's worth a try. Like,
I'm saying he's just. He's absolutely just. Like you said, he ain't no fool. He knows everybody's not gonna choose life. He knows everybody's not gonna walk this path. But at the end of the day, what you're not gonna be able to say about him is that I did not get that he didn't give you the opportunity. You ain't gonna be able to call him unfair. You ain't gonna be able to call him unjust. You ain't gonna say he ain't warn you. Ain't nobody warned me. Ain't nobody told me. Ain't nobody did this. Ain't nobody did that. How come I no, you're not gonna be able to say that about the Father. He gonna make sure, like you said, he gonna make sure that you have the same opportunity as that righteous person who does who did make it. You had the opportunity to do the same exact thing. Wasn't about what the Father did. It was about what you did with that.
In this moment, Moshe did not display the character of Yahuwah. Like you say, you did not keep me set apart, and it just makes me think about Shemot or Exodus chapter 34, verse 5. And Yahuwah came down in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name Yahuwah. And Yahuwah passed before him and proclaimed, Yahuwah, Yahuwah, and El compassionate, and showing favor, patience, and great and loving commitment and truth, watching over loving commitment for thousands, forgiving crookedness and transgression and sin, but by no means leaving unpunished, visiting the crookedness of the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the third and fourth generation. So,
do me a favor.
uh huh,
Let me see. 'Cause I was gonna put this in the lesson.
uh huh,
Kept it out.
okay.
Go to verse. Sorry, y'all.
No worries. Take your time.
Yeah, you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so no matter what, we have to keep Yahuwah set apart. And if we are his people, it says in Leviticus or Waikra that we are commanded to be set apart, for Yahuwah is set apart. So with that being said, we have to be set apart in our actions, in our words, in our thoughts, you know. And it's just powerful because their his anger might be considered righteous. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like Yahuwah said, well, you did not believe me, so Yahuwah is going to take care of it all. So the best thing you can do is operate set apartness, just making sure that you are displaying the fruit of the spirit no matter what. And it's always better to be, gentle with your speech and not be full of wrath, and just believe that Abi was going to take care of whatever is going on. Just make sure you're operating righteously according to Yahuwah's character, how he portrays himself to us. And he's very loving, he's very forgiving, he's merciful. And so I think that when we remember how Yahuwah operates with us, it should be easier to operate the same way with our brother and sister, because of how compassionate and loving he is. So it just made me think about that those verses.
All praises. Yeah, there's many reasons why the Messiah said what he said. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. When you run into your own strength, is again easy to believe after a while, once you get worn out, that they're doing it on purpose. I'm gonna share 3 verses. This is Jeremiah 8, 1 through 3. At that time, saith the Most High, they shall bring out the bones of the kings of Judah, and the bones of his princes, and the bones of the priests, and the bones of the prophets, and the bones of the inhabitants of Jerusalem out of their graves, and they shall spread them before the sun, the moon, and all the host of heaven, whom they have loved, and whom they have served, and after whom they have walked, and whom they have sought, and whom they have worshipped. They shall not be gathered, nor be buried. They shall be for dung upon the face of the earth. And death shall be chosen rather than life by all the residue of them that remain of this evil family, whom remain in all the places whither I have driven them, saith the Most High of hosts. That verse right there speaks to the condition of our people today. This is why when we are called of the Father and we're getting to know him, we need to know that his heart is for his people to be redeemed. And the reason he's calling us is to be intercessors. What does it say in Hebrews 5? Speaking of the high priest, there's a reason there was one that was qualified to go in and commune with the Father in the Holy of Holies. Because it's not rare to find a mindset like that. To remember just that. This isn't my people's nature. This is my people's condition. Like an unclean animal is going to eat unclean because that's what it does. A clean animal ain't going to eat unclean if that's all that's available. Because it's clean. It just ain't going to partake. And death shall be chosen rather than life by all the residue of them that remain of this evil family. There's a curse, which is really just a consequence. This is what we've been living out. This is why we didn't know that Torah was for us. This is why it's so easy to choose the wrong things. Because we've been in a habit of choosing death instead of life. First, as a consequence of our ancestors' behavior, and then as a consequence of the patterns that we establish in our own lives. And now, in dealing with each other, and especially outside of the wall, remember that they're suffering from this consequence, from this curse. They're prone to choose death. It's not personal, it's spiritual. So don't allow me to accuse them as if that's just what they want to do. They're subjugated by darkness. Now, how can I live to make it easier for them to access the light? Spiritual wickedness is trying to get us to do the opposite. I'm gonna snuff out the one with the light, and then they all doomed. So when you look back at the story, you see that through all the people, darkness is trying to overcome Moshe to overcome the nation,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
working through the nation.
Mhm.
But the nation's unaware that that's what's going on. So
Mhm.
to take it personal,
Mhm.
it's not wise.
Mhm.
Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Mhm. Mhm. I found that verse. I kept overlooking it. It's verse 9, 38. Shemo, Exodus 34, verse 9. He said, if now I have found favor in your eyes, O Yahuwah, I pray, let Yahuwah go in our midst. So, go in whose midst? Our midst. Like you notice in this moment when he's got his head on the right way, he talking the right way. We I'm part of this people. Only time where he had problems when is when he separated himself from the people. Even though
Disintegration.
we are stiff necked people. Not they are stiff necked people. We are stiff necked people. And forgive our crookedness and our sin. And take us as your inheritance. Like, now he's in it when he in that mindset, he in the right space to be able to really intercede for the people. So yeah, just wanted to say that.
All praises.
Yeah, that part is deep, the condition part, because they're literally coming from Misraim. They're coming into the wilderness to receive Yahuwah's ways. So their thought process is going to be exactly this, because they're still learning. They haven't even really came into the true essence, even though they've seen the deliverance of Yahuwah. But I don't know. I feel like it takes, Yahuwah's getting the laws together, the Torah, the decrees, the commands, the instructions, for them to be able to, okay, no, this is how I roll. I am your father, your Elohim. And so yeah, like bringing it to now, like yeah, if you just focus on, okay, no, this is a condition of our people. I'm gonna love you, because I understand. No, we have been given this, and yes, because of our disobedience, but we are here. This is our condition. So I think a lot of times we often forget that, and now we go into straight pride and anger. But you are a part of the people. It's your condition too. It's your condition too. So you may have been able to, maybe you've improved and know how to operate a little bit better in this condition, but it's still our condition. So it's like at the end of the day, let's show humility, and let's have compassion and show love, to everyone. And just remember, no, we are in our fallen state, and just continue to pray. I'll be who will continue to lift us up and show us His way. But yeah, it's deep because they're literally in the wilderness to receive Yahuwah's ways, and all of this is occurring in the midst of it. So he has to correct you, like, no, we're not doing that. We're not thinking this way. This is not what we're going to be doing. Moshe, I need you to, provide my word, and you have to be set apart. And I need you to show them how I operate. In this instant, he didn't do that, and that's why that occurred. His discipline.
Broken people. It's the reason why he was from sun up to sundown having to judge between these people. It's the reason why they had so many issues. Like it wasn't just coming for no reason. Like now they coming with disputes and issues because they don't know no other way. They have to get it from him. We don't know how to deal with this. So can you judge in this matter? They really didn't have the education of what was right or what was wrong. So he had to teach it to them.
And that's literally exactly what we're dealing with right now. It's literally exactly what we're dealing with right now in this walk, in this, what everybody want to call the awakening. And so it trips me out sometimes when I'm reading comments online and I'll be watching a video or something like that. And, you know, somebody will make a comment under and say, well, 2/3 ain't going to make it. Somebody got to be, some of us going to have to be left behind. And it's like, okay, we know this. Internally, we know this. But at the end of the day, what makes you think that you're going to be one of the 1/3?
That's the thing.
Like, what makes you think you yourself are in any better condition within that person that you're
Mm-hmm.
making that statement about.
Mm-hmm. Another
Because
bias.
yeah, look, calling
Mm-hmm.
back to lesson two,
Mm-hmm.
or lesson was that lesson one or two, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Bias. Yep. And it's like, no, in this instance or in this situation, you might not be doing what they're doing, but let me take a little bit of a look through your life. Let me take a little bit of a look through your walk. There's something else that's going to trip you up, and somebody else might have the same opinion about you if they see you in that condition.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, 2/3,
Mm-hmm.
2/3
Mm-hmm.
filling up fat. Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't have room to be condemning each other like that and saying this, that, and the third about one another like that because of the fact, listen, we don't know where we stand.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Lest you
ask for the day.
fall.
Don't call for the day of the Most High. You don't know where you stand. It is not a day of rejoicing. Nobody is going to be happy in that day. It is a day of much horror. It is a day of much terror. Like we're going to look at what's going to happen to them folks, and it's going to hurt us to see that. Out of all of the mess we done been through, we gonna be hurt to see that because who can stand that? Yeah, who can stand what we done went through? You know what I'm saying? We done been through a hell of a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
But when that day actually come, the day of the Most High actually come, it ain't go like it.
Because you're gonna have a conscious mind to remember you deserve it too.
Yeah. So it's like, we're literally what he's going through right now. We're going through this thing right now. And so I just lament for self sometimes, like, dang, when I first came into this walk, yeah, I was. You know what I'm saying? Fully like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm cool now. We cool. Look, no, y'all finna, you going here, you going there. Y'all better quit doing you, but at the end of the day, like you said, and Most High hit me with that heavy one day, and so that's why I said earlier, I appreciate His word because He literally took them by the hand while they were in the wilderness and walked with them and taught them instance by instance, situation by situation. No, not this. Yes, that. No to this. Yes to that. You asked for this. That was wrong. You gonna get punished for that. But I'm not gonna make a complete end of you. Like he literally was compassionate enough to walk with them by the hand. And if we will receive it, he's doing that with us now. We all just within the last, I'm gonna say, yeah, we got people who have, over in Demona Israel been there since what, the 80s or something,
Yeah,
like
I think
60s or
60s is
something
when
like
they
that.
first. Yeah.
So literally since the civil rights, so 50, 60 years compared to how many years of torment. And we think, who got it all together? We think anybody, any camp, any congregation, any person, any whatever, what have you, any anagram, letter, whatever, whoever, they got it all together. We are fools to think such, to think such. Just like we would be foolish to think that every last single word that the Most High spoke is contained in just these 66 books. No, he is constantly speaking, constantly dealing with his people, and constantly has word going forth if we will pay attention. And he's constantly teaching us if we will hear him. And we are literally being walked by the hand through situations in this walk, awakening, whatever you want to call it, and called to learn of him. Not called to, hey, get it all, you got to have it all together in like 2 seconds. No, we got to learn about him first. And I appreciate the manner in which he folded all of this out. He showed them the signs and the wonders first, gave them something to believe in. Like, yo, watch what I'm going to do for you. As a nation, watch what I'm going to do for you. Now, then, as it was brought out earlier, now I'm going to go ahead and give you my stipulations. I'm going to give you a reason to understand, this is what you clinging to. and now I'm gonna give you the stipulations in order to stay clung unto me. So I just appreciate how he rolled it out, and I appreciate, like I said, I can't say enough, like these lessons and these things that you be bringing out, and both of y'all be bringing out, just when you think about it in that way, like in the difference of mind frames, when you think about it in the way that we're doing, it begins to make you change your perspective. Just begins to change your perspective. That's enough for me.
All praises.
All praises. So in closing, Ephesians 5 and 15, it says, "See then that you walk exactly, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are wicked. So then do not be foolish, but understand what the desire of Yahuwah is. And do not be drunk with wine, in which is loose behavior, but be filled with the Ruach, or the Spirit, speaking to each other in psalms and songs of praise and spiritual songs, singing and striking the strings with in your heart to the Master." Again, we started on that same sentiment, and we closing on that same sentiment. This groove right here, that's the place to be in.
If you would, I'd like to share two scriptures
All praises.
and then read this again.
All praises.
All praises. This is Matthew 11, 1 through 6. Matthew 11 and 1. And it came to pass, when Yahushua had made an end of commanding his taught ones, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Messiah, he sent two of his taught ones, and said unto him, Are you he that should come, or do we look for another?
Mm.
You the Messiah? Is you is, or is you ain't? Man, why I'm still in here?
Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean? You know you about to cut my head off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is you him or not?
Mm-hmm.
And Yahushua answered and said unto them, forgive me. Yahushua answered and said unto them, Go and show John again those things which you do hear and see.
Mm-hmm.
The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. And blessed is he whosoever shall not be offended in me. That's deep. If truly in him we live and move and have our being, we're going to go through things.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as we get offended, instead of him being the healer, he's going to become a stumbling block unto us. The other one, Second Ezra 14, 28 through 35. Hear these words, O Israel. Our fathers at the beginning were strangers in Egypt, from whence they were delivered, and received the law of life, which they kept not, which ye also have transgressed after them. Then was the land, even the land of Zion, parted among you by lot. But your fathers and ye yourselves have done unrighteousness, and have not kept the ways which the highest commanded you. And for so much as he is a righteous judge, he took from you in time the thing which he had given you. And now are you here, and your brethren among you. Therefore, if so be that you will subdue your own understanding and reform your hearts, you shall be kept alive. And after death you shall obtain mercy. For after death shall the judgment come. And when we shall live again, then shall the names of the righteous be manifest, and the works of the ungodly shall be declared.
All praises. Again, Ephesians 5 and 15. See then that you walk exactly, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are wicked. So then, do not be foolish, but understand what the desire of Yahuwah is. And do not be drunk with wine, which is loose behavior, but be filled with the Ruach, speaking to each other in psalms and songs of praise and spiritual songs, singing and striking the strings in your heart to the Master, giving thanks always for all to Elohim the Father in the name of our Master Yahushua HaMashiach, subjecting yourselves to each other in the fear of Elohim. So, in closing, I just wanted to encourage us all to be mindful um, of our effect on others and the effect that others can have on us. It's my hope that as we continue going over this topic, we come to see how our opinions are formed and their effect on us and others when we share them. So, prayerfully, the lesson was edifying. Hopefully, it was encouraging. And yeah, with that, I'm definitely ready to bid shalom.
Hallelujah. 12 lesson. Definitely much to think about.
Agreed. Definitely a told lesson again. Like I can't say enough. Like just thinking about the scriptures and trying to bring it into full circle into modern times and modern day thinking. Same stuff happening. New year, So I definitely appreciate all the lessons being brought out. Um, yeah, definitely hope that and pray that, Most High willing, it was edifying to those who were able to drop in and hear and those who will join us in the replay. I pray that it is edifying unto you and unto your walk, and that, we all strive toward the mastery because that's the goal, striving towards mastery. We're not supposed to have mastery already and just be already knowing. We have to learn of the Father. That's why he tells us in Isaiah, learn to do justice and judgment. Learn of me. So yeah, I just appreciate all these lessons and chopping up the scriptures, and I appreciate the manner in which it gets brought out as well because I don't think enough of this kind of goes on, because we literally just chop it up with the scripts. Like you do a lot of heavy lifting, you do a lot of heavy lifting, and then we get to kind of chop it up and put our perspective on it and be corrected in the midst of chopping it up and so on and so forth. So I definitely appreciate the manner in which the Father is bringing this forward. I don't have any announcements other than first annual Abram Homeschoolers Convention coming up in less than 1 week in LaGrange, Georgia. For those who have not heard about it, you late. Ooh. Oh, you late. You should have been listening. Nah. But no, it is a homeschool convention for the Abram or Hebrew community. We are doing our best, like I said, learning to do well. We are learning these things, learning to form this community, learning to prefer one another, learning to come up out of her, my people. No more school to prison pipeline. We bringing these babies home. We are homeschooling these children. We are raising them up into well-rounded individuals. We are forming community the best way that we can and the best way that we know how, allowing the Father to lead us and guide us and put us in the path, making divine connections as He sees fit. Because absolutely, this is divine connection. We were talking about something earlier that was in the lesson, and I was like, man, we just went through that last night talking about perspective, and just speaking with one of the sisters that's involved with the convention. I'm like, man, this is hitting home right now. I didn't bring it up at that time because it wasn't the space and time to do so, but it definitely hit home. And it just made me further think, like, yeah, we're literally going through these things right now. If we will see it, it is the warfare. Exactly. And I think, and that's another reason why I appreciate what the Father is doing. Like He's reteaching us. He's raising up shepherds.
Hmm.
Come on, shepherds. Shepherds. He's raising up shepherds after his own heart. No more of the mess, but he's doing it. He's raising up shepherds after his own heart. And I can just appreciate being in this time, in this moment. So yes, less than a week away, LaGrange, Georgia, November 22nd through the 23rd, Wednesday and Thursday. We don't celebrate no Thanksgiving. We doing something for the babies. We doing something for our community while the rest of the world is doing what they're doing and celebrating that holiday, pagan, whatever mess. We're going to be doing our thing. We're going to be dealing with homeschool curriculums. We're going to be listening to seminars, having speakers come out. We are going to be watching these babies perform, seeing them shine and bring forth the talent, skills, and abilities that the Most High have endowed them with in righteousness. And we are going to be supporting and uplifting these children to the best of our abilities. Oh my goodness, prayerfully, it's going to be such a beautiful event. We definitely are trying to make sure that it turns out very, very well. So come on out. The tickets are on sale on Eventbrite right now. Just eventbrite.com/ Abram, ABRYM, Homeschoolers Convention. And you can get your tickets there. It's like $45 for a family of 4 for the general entry. And that's for both days. So you don't got to pay $45 each day. No, that's $45 from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. You get access to all of that. We'll have vendors there with curriculum. Like I said, there's going to be speakers there, workshops, seminars. There's going to be stuff for the babies on day 2, like workshops specifically for the children. On day 2, we're going to have a bounce house out there. Come on now. You know what I'm saying? So while the parents are getting their information, and yes, these are going to be, guarded, not guarded, but watched areas. Like we're not just leaving the kids by themselves. You know what I'm saying? So yes, they will be super. But there you go. See, sometimes the word slips. They will be supervised areas and supervised activities and all of the above. But we will have truth music artists that are going to perform on day 1, and then a Covenant Child showcase on day 2, where the children are going to be doing their thing. And I'm super excited about that. We are going to have a formal dinner on day 2, where we just want to commune and give these babies our undivided attention. So it's like dinner and a show kind of situation, right? So dinner tickets are sold separately from the general admission tickets, but the dinner tickets are extremely affordable as well. So check it out. Eventbrite.com / Abram Homeschoolers Convention. Um, if you want to show up, LaGrange, Georgia, next week, November 22nd through the 23rd. Other than that, other than that, just check out some of our previous lessons for the kiddos. Check out some of our previous Sabbath studies, Sabbath school lessons. And we put those out as they come to us, and because there's a lot of work putting together those little videos and those little Sabbath stories. It is. So they don't come out every week. Apologize about that. But they come out as we get them finished, and as they are, we try to put out the best quality that we know how to do. So yeah, check out some of those previous Sabbath school lessons. We really try to break that down for the children to understand, so that they are getting their scripture and their word in, as well as us for the adults in the evenings. So other than that, that's it. I'm gonna stop rambling. I'm gonna stop chit chatting, and I'm gonna say prayerfully, Most High keep y'all. May the Most High hear us in our times of distress. May He make us exponentially more than we are this day. May it be for our tov and not for our evil. And to that, Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.